Welcome back. It's Mr. Fred here again, and I'm here to teach you English. In our last lesson, we learned about the different types of sentences. And we learned that there are two types of sentences. We have sentences according to function. And we have different types of sentences according to structure. When we learn about functions, we learned that there are declarative sentences, interrogative sentences, imperative sentences, and exclamatory sentences. Today we want to talk about the different types of sentences according to structure. Would you know that there are also four? We have four types of sentences according to structure. They are simple sentences, compound sentences, complex sentences, and compound complex sentences. All of these are very easy. I'm going to try to break it down so you can really understand it. So let's start with simple sentences. A simple sentence is made up of one main clause or one independent clause. Most of the time we hear that a simple sentence expresses one complete thought. And it makes sense on its own. So just right there on its own, it makes sense. You don't need additional information to understand what it means. I'm going to give you one example from the Bible. It's just 2 words. It's said to be the shortest verse in the Bible. It's called Jesus wept. Are you surprised? Just 2 words, and that's a sentence. Because you don't need any other information to understand the meaning in those 2 words. It's complete on its own. So that's what a simple sentence is. It's a sentence that consists of one independent clause. Now that I think about it, let me tell you what independent clauses are. An independent clause is also known as a main clause. You will hear me talk about independent and dependent clauses throughout this lesson. So please pay attention. An independent clause is a clause that can stand on its own. On its own, it expresses a complete thought. This is very important because there is another kind of clause that cannot stand on its own. Before I continue, let me just say what a clause is. A clause is a grammatical structure that is made up of a group of words that contain a verb. Depending on what type of clause it is, it could contain a subject and a verb. So typically, independent clauses contain a subject, that is who or what the sentence is talking about, and the verb. I already explained verb in the previous lesson. So, it contains a subject and a verb. That's what an independent clause is. But when you look at a dependent clause, you will find that it is not complete on its own. So it cannot stand alone and express its complete meaning. You will find that it lacks a subject or something. And so that element of incompleteness rules it out as a sentence. But if you look at an independent clause, on its own it's a sentence. So, a simple sentence is, in other words, an independent clause. Remember, I said an independent clause is a main clause. So let's have an example. I like ice cream. Now, the first one I gave you was 2 words. This one is just 3 words. Don't get me wrong. A simple sentence could be longer, okay? But just understand the basic structure. A simple sentence has a simple structure. Most of the time, it's just what we call an SVO structure. What does S stand for? The subject of the sentence. I already told you what a subject is. What does V stand for? The verb in the sentence. And now what does O stand for? The object. Now let me just repeat what these are. A subject is who or what the sentence is talking about. So when I say Jesus wept, who are we talking about? Jesus. When I said I like ice cream, who were we talking about? I. So Jesus and I were the subjects in those sentences. What about the verb, V? The verb stands for what the subject is doing. Alright, so when I said Jesus wept, wept was what Jesus was doing. That's the verb. When I said I like ice cream, although this is not an action verb, it also tells you something about what I do, what I did. I like, that's a state. Alright, I like ice cream. So like there is the verb. So that's a simple sentence for you. It has a simple structure, an S, V, O. What about the O? The O is what's called object. What is an object? You see, when a subject does something, it carries out that action on another thing. That thing is the object. So if I say something like, Funke ate the cake. Funke remains the subject, ate remains what she did, and the cake remains what was eaten. So the cake is the object. Now let's move on very quickly to compound sentences. So what is a compound sentence? A compound sentence is a sentence that consists of two independent clauses. In other words, two simple sentences, but joined together with a conjunction. You will learn about two types of conjunctions that are used. We have coordinating conjunctions and subordinating conjunctions. When we talk about compound sentences, we mainly use coordinating conjunctions. I don't know if you've heard about the acronym FANBOYS. All the words in FANBOYS stand for coordinating conjunctions. F stands for, A stands for and, N stands for nor, B stands for but, O stands for or, Y stands for yet, and S stands for so. So when we use coordinating conjunctions, we use them mostly to link two simple sentences or two independent clauses to form a compound sentence. So let's have an example. The boy fell and the girl laughed. As you can see, we have two clauses right there. We have the boy fell on one hand, and we have the girl laughed on another hand. And in the middle, we have and. Can you see how and was used to join those two simple sentences, those two independent clauses? This is how compound sentences are formed. And let's move on quickly to complex sentences. A complex sentence consists of one independent clause and two or more subordinating clauses or dependent clauses. One independent clause, two or more subordinating clauses. But the important thing to note here is that they are joined together by a subordinating conjunction. Remember, I mentioned coordinating conjunction, now subordinating conjunction. A subordinating conjunction joins the clauses in a complex sentence. Some examples are until, although. These are subordinating conjunctions. Let's have an example. The girl ate the apple when she got home. We have two clauses right there. First, the girl ate the apple. As you can see, that's an independent clause. It can stand on its own. It's complete. It expresses a complete thought. When she got home, on the other hand, is not an independent clause. There is when there, which is a subordinator, joining the two clauses together. And lastly, we have compound complex sentences. This is a very complex sentence structure. It's a bit difficult, so I hope you can pay attention and hear this now. A compound complex sentence, as you can see, is made up of a compound sentence and a complex sentence. Remember what I said a compound sentence is? So a compound complex sentence is made up of two independent clauses and one or more dependent clauses. Two independent clauses and one or more dependent clauses. Let's have an example. As it happens, You are right and I am wrong. As it happens, it's your dependent clause. You are right is one independent clause. I am wrong is another independent clause. And you can see the use of and to join them right there. As it happens, you are right and I am wrong. That's a classic example of a compound complex sentence. Please go over what I've said to you and try to use more complex sentences in your writing rather than just simple sentences. I hope you have learned a lot today. Have a good day. I'll see you next time.